Alright, so hello everyone, and welcome back to Factorio. So let's click resume and get back into it. Now, here on Gleba, we are dealing with some problems. Namely, everything is awful, and it's all spoiling, and that's not ideal. So, we're going to need to fix that. And I think we're gonna need to basically just redesign most of this. So I was thinking about it, and basically the problem is things just sit on the belts, and when they sit on the belts, they are inevitably going to decay and spoil, which is then going to cause all sorts of problems. So I think what we need to do is we need to make sure that all of our belts, they never have anything sitting on them. Everything just has to pass straight through. And I think the best way of doing that is to just have boxes at the end which can accumulate large quantities, wait for them to spoil, and then deposit the spoilage into some sort of incinerator type thing. And that is going to involve just redesigning this entire thing. And so the problem is, basically, doing that requires us to have a defined endpoint for the production line, but that would cause problems if we want to expand. So what I'm thinking we need some sort of loop. So if we say we had this belt going to the incinerator there, we could branch stuff off, do stuff with it, and then send it back on. So sort of like a main bus, but slightly different. And that should be something. Now we also have the short-term problems of just not having supplies to build stuff. So if I remember correctly, we don't have any splitters at all. So let's go up to the transport platform. You didn't bring any splitters, I don't think. So let's get you requesting a couple stacks of express splitters, and then you can head back, probably. Maybe we should have deposited some of this stuff that we have here, but it's probably fine. Alright, so while that is going, we are going to need a redesign, because this is obviously not working at all. How's the power going, by the way? It's fine, I guess. Could be worse. Could be a lot worse on the power front. Okay, so what we need to do is, let me think for a second. How are we going to do this? So we need to check first. Can all of these intermediate bits get burned? The eggs are burnable. The rocket fuel is obviously burnable. Let's see, bioflux. Okay, well actually we can just wait for it to spoil and then burn it if it can't be burned instantly. That's actually not a problem. Okay. So, yeah, what we need is we need to set up like a good solid production space, which we don't want to go into, I guess, we don't want to go into the marshes because it's going to be annoying. So we want to stay like here on dry land. So, what we need... I need to figure out how exactly we're gonna get this going in that way. Because it is not obvious right now. So I guess to start, we need to chop some trees down so we have space. Yeah, we are here on Gleba, still trying to figure all this nonsense out. And I think I have an idea of, like, conceptually what I want to do, but implementing it is probably going to require dismantling a whole lot and rebuilding. So, we need, like... I don't know. Actually, let's just try to start doing this now, and then we'll see what problems we run into. So the box is going to output the spoilage. And really what we want is like a central place where all the spoilage goes. But that's probably not going to be easy. So ultimately we need to get the spoilage over to like these heating towers where it can just be incinerated and then we won't have to deal with it anymore. Stuff is happening on Novice. What's going on? This wall. Okay, yeah, so let's get some of this stuff in there. And that's within the laser range, so it should function. And then maybe just another row as well. And then let's set up some artillery here, which will go like that, and I think it'll need another power pole as well, because those biter nests are insanely close, and I really don't want them to be insanely close. Alright, back to Gleba. That has been dealt with. So, I like having, like, these long belts, because they give me a decent amount of space to split things off of once I have splitters, which I currently don't. Alright. So step one is we take this box and we bring it all the way around. I'm not out of underground belts. So there we go. So you go to here. And then you can, I guess, line up with all of that spoilage as well. Alright. So, what we want to do to prevent issues is we're just gonna need to like tear most of this stuff down and redo it from scratch. Honestly, that's just gonna be easier than working with it as is. So all this stuff, we're just gonna take all this out, build something new, and then see how well that works. Okay, I apparently had a box with a significant amount of copper in there. So that's useful at least. Although it's a bit of a waste of drones, considering my power isn't great on this awful planet. Alright, so all of this stuff goes out because it is a absolute nightmare of a design, which I just need to not be dealing with. Okay, inventory is full. That's unsurprising. Throw most of the junk in a random box. Okay, then we're gonna dismantle all this stuff. And what? I dismantled the box that I just placed. Dang it. Undo that. This is the worst. Okay. So all this stuff just goes into there. And that's a decent amount of space, I guess. Let's try not to dismantle that same box a third time. Alright, we don't want to dismantle the cargo landing pad. That would be quite a problem. Okay, we have managed to disconnect what we have here from the power lines, which is not really a problem since we're going to be rebuilding all this stuff anyways. Alright, so all that goes out. All of this stuff goes out. But we're just gonna be starting from scratch here. So there we go. And we should have plenty of building materials at least, since we're dismantling basically everything. Alright, we can leave this. I think this is fine, but then we also want to take this side of things down. And that all goes away. Although I don't have power for my drones. Yeah, we need to get like uranium for better power for drone stuff, because this current system of just having to wait constantly for super weak solar panels is definitely not the way to do it. Alright, this seems wrong, but I guess I did just disconnect like most of my power demand, so I guess maybe it makes sense. Alright. I cannot wait for this dismantling to happen in like a month and a half. It's so awful. Nighttime takes forever. Alright, so it's daytime now, and we have power presumably coming through the solar panels. Very, very slowly. There's nothing we have unlocked like to get better portable solar panels or anything, right? Yeah, we're just stuck with it until we can get. Honestly, let's set that up now. We're going to need a artillery gun down here, because there is uranium like right there. So if I can just yoink that, get the biters out of the way, that would be pretty neat. Apparently we are out of artillery. So why is that? So you obviously don't have any of the tungsten. And you have like half the tungsten we're requesting. Okay. Has something here broken? No. Okay, that one is functional. This one isn't getting any of these. Why are you not getting low density structure production? Because you're not getting plastic. And the plastic is dead because the coal is dead. Alright, that's definitely not ideal. So we have another relatively small amount of coal on the other side of that patch. But we don't really have... I mean, I don't see any in this area. We've got calcite there. We've got tungsten out there. Tungsten out there. Okay, and I mean, that amount of coal isn't even that much. Like, it's not a terrible amount, but it's not huge. Alright, so, Vulcanist support. You are capable of dropping iron and ice down to the surface. Can we get you to do the same for carbon? We should be able to, theoretically. So if we take that, run the belt down to here, and in there, okay, we want to stop you for the time being, and you need a decider combinator, which we can copy paste from there, set you to, where's carbon? Carbon's gonna be in here somewhere. There it is. And the amount that this is storing is like way too much for all of these things. So let's... First we need to get this all hooked up. Alright, I think that is correct. We set you to enable disable if x equals... What do we have these guys set to? X equals 0. So if deny signal equals 0, you're enabled disabled, and we don't want you to have filters. Alright. So this is outputting. This isn't. Did I do something wrong here? Why are you not going? 0, yeah, and you aren't doing that. Oh, I see. You're all connected up to the same thing. Got it. So you're all seeing the same X signal because you're all connected to the space platform hub, so that's no good. Actually, can't we just do this without the combinators? If we just have you set up to enable disable if carbon is less than 200. Yeah, so that works, and we don't even need that. Alright, so that is now going. And yeah, so it looks like that one thing that I sent off manually is working. And now hopefully this will provide enough carbon for us. Although we don't have much spare carbon. Can we, like... Do we have speed modules up here? We do. Are these working around the clock? Are they getting enough? Looks like they might be. So let's speed module them. to increase the amount of output we have. And okay, we need to get these guys set down to like 200 each as well. Because this one bit of storage thing is carrying a lot of stuff. And it's doing a lot of work. And just now it's going to be supplying Vulcanus with carbon as well. Now, can we actually... do we even have the recipe to convert carbon? There was a research somewhere in here. I think it might actually be agricultural science or something to convert carbon into coal. Like, I don't know where that is. Maybe we already have it. Maybe I'm just blind and not seeing it. It might be a bioflux thing. I don't know. Let's just search. Carbon. Alright, so carbon-related things. We have tungsten carbide. Asteroid reprocessing makes carbon. Asteroid productivity increases productivity. Advanced asteroid processing. And carbon fiber, which is some super late game thing. Okay, maybe it's labeled after coal. Calcite processing. No, it's not that. It's not coal liquefaction. Who knows? I'm pretty sure there's some research that lets you convert carbon into coal. I don't know what it is. And we do kind of need it. Alright. Well, now we're here above Novice. And we are deploying our stuff. And you... did you get disconnected? Yes, you did. We need to reconnect you officially. There. So we gathered too much carbon there, and we might have to just drop some of this junk, honestly. Like, we don't need 20 billion of each of these things. Let's drop some calcite off, just to make sure. There we go. So back down on Novice, we should have these guys getting produced again with our tungsten. And then the transport platform... or not transport platform, this one has turned around and left. So now we are heading back to Vulcanus. What were we doing on Gleba? We were waiting for drone power to dismantle all this stuff, which it looks like we've at least mostly gotten at this point. Don't have like any spare power except from a little bit in those. So yeah, we have basically dismantled the entire factory. Now, the thing I'm looking for, if I already unlocked it, it would be up here, right? But I don't see it. Okay. Is it... maybe I just... is it any of these? No, it's not. Is it, like, related to any of these? Let's just check. Factoripedia carbon. So carbon can do carbon recycling. That's not what we want, right? No, that's not it. Used in coal synthesis. Yes. Alright, what is coal synthesis? Unlocked by rocket turret. Well, that's a bizarre thing to unlock that. And it requires agricultural science and other stuff we already have, so I guess we just need to get agricultural science, which shouldn't be terribly difficult, I guess, although it's going to be a bit of a nuisance to get that before with Vulcanus down. Be a little bit more annoying than it should be. Alright, so let's get this last belt of spoilage removed. Okay, novice stuff is happening, which probably means the artillery turrets are firing, in all likelihood. Alright. So, we've taken all this down, and these things do last quite a while, don't they? What, like an hour? So that's pretty neat, I guess. So what we need is, we need to start by just getting both of these types of berries together. And also we need to figure out what's going on over here with this. Why are you just out of seeds? Yeah, so I think we let too much of this stuff spoil and we ran out of seeds for it, which is pretty bad. Okay, stuff is getting destroyed over on Novice. Where is that? They're getting destroyed flying over that. Don't I have an artillery turret, like right here? Oh, it doesn't have ammo. Okay. Well, hopefully you get that sorted out at some point. How much... Alright, we're basically out of tungsten already. So yeah, that's not... All sorts of things happening. Not great right now. So, we need to take this stuff apart as well. And my inventory is full. Let's just throw the spoilage into the trash slots. And let's also throw some... There's gotta be something we can get rid of. Regular inserters are bad. I don't know, let's just make a chest. Let's just make a chest and drop some stuff off that we're gonna need eventually, but not now. Like all these drones. Let's get like one stack of each. Not like 20 billion. That one extra electric furnace, those assembly machine 2s, that stuff can all go. It would be nice to use these jelly nuts to create stuff to actually get something going. But it seems like that might be a bit of a time crunch. Alright, so we are just going to dismantle all of this because it's all messed up. So all of this extra stuff goes out. Now we don't have to worry about all that. Instead, we just have an input belt for seeds and an output belt for the fruit. Okay. So, we have that, and let's see, there's also all of this, which is not what we want. We want to get rid of extra belts wherever possible, just to keep this as simple as possible, because we want to avoid spaghetti. So we have our fruit belt, we have our seed belt, And we don't have any other belts. Crazy stuff is happening on Novice with all of my new artillery. Hopefully it's fine though. We're not seeing any of the actual artillery pieces themselves getting damaged, so that's generally a good sign. Just some drones and the like. Alright. So, we need to figure out where exactly we're building this. We need somewhere with, like, a decent amount of space. Terrain is theoretically fine if we can find some cliff explosives, which we don't currently have. And we've apparently assigned some to be used. So this thing here is fine. We can leave that because we can have this be where all of our stuff eventually gets routed into. But let's get rid of these belts that wrap around it. And let's get rid of this one. Alright, so this all goes out. And I really want these to be sort of all dealt with in one spot, both types of fruit, just for simplicity. So let's run this belt over here, and then down here, and then let's see. We have a decent amount of space over this way if we bring in cliff explosives, which is going to be a bit hard, but should be possible. So we have our belt going along here. And then we have our jelly nut belt, which we can also have go along here. And actually, let's just bring the jelly nut belt over there so we can start like in this area and then move to the left. So you are going to go over this way and then come up here and then route over here. Alright, so then we take all those guys out. And now we can start with the assembly machines. So, you are there, and you are going to do jelly nut processing. So you need to take that as input, and then you need to output 2 belts, which I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but we have our 2 belts there, and one of these are going to be the jelly nut seeds, and the other is going to be the jelly. And we want these to be scalable to some extent, so we want seeds to go around that way and then into that belt where they need to go. And then let's just place a whole bunch of these, and I guess we just need to copy paste this all the way over. So how much is that? That's a decent amount. It's 1.25 each, so that's 2.55. Yeah, let's just keep this expanding out because we don't want there to be a shortage of processing. Okay, and the other thing I need in here are power poles, which probably should have done first, but that's fine. And we need to get the power poles actually connected into something. So this goes all the way up here. And over to there. Alright, so we now have a whole bunch of jelly processing and a whole bunch of jelly nut processing. So now, what we need is, let's get that last one out. We need both of these to loop around back to a area where they get collected for spoilage. So we need jelly nuts. Actually, how far do we want this to just expand out a decent distance so that there's room between where things start and where they need to wind up? So we go all the way out this way, and I'm just realizing with the setup over there, it would be much easier to do this the other way, but I can just move that setup over to here, I guess. No, let's think about this. So if we turn these output belts around and this input belt around and connect the inputs up over there, then we can get the spoilage to that. And that would require this looping around over that way. No, so the thing is, I want to have like one defined end and then scale out that way. So the inputs need to come in from this side and the outputs simultaneously need to exit out to that side. So let's see here. This needs to, I think we can turn this one around and have that be fine. And then you need to go underground beneath that and over to here. And then all of you go up into that, which we need to power up. So now we're getting all of that spoilage out of the way. And why are these guys not... Oh, right. So this needs to also output spoilage if it wants to. That's a belt we're going to need to deal with spoilage on anyways, so it won't hurt anything to do that. So now these guys should be running and processing a whole bunch of jelly nuts. And then how do we loop the jelly nuts back? So the thing is, we need to keep like a good amount of seed output in order to have this going. A train ran out. How did a train run out of fuel? How did that even happen? And Vulcanist doesn't have storage space on the transport hub. All right. How do we fix that? Can we just have a drone? Yes, we can. And let's see, where is your stop? It's up here. Ah, I see. That would be the problem, wouldn't it? This got built just ever so slightly too far back to actually be of any use. There we go. So now that's set up. And this transport hub is trying to get some stuff input, but it doesn't have the space. let's kick some of that down. And some of that, and some of that. And these are all set to 200, so they should all still be inactive. Okay, so this is making a whole bunch of jelly, which is ultimately just getting destroyed. And that's fine. But it seems like these might even need bulk inserters to keep up with this, at least at the current rate. So eventually we're going to run out of jelly nuts, and then who knows what'll happen. But I think what we can do is if we take these around and we just loop you back into yourself, then we'll at least get some use out of these. And the jelly it produces is going to be like 90% spoiled already, just because of how long these have been sitting here. But it'll at least produce the seeds to keep production going, which is the actual thing we need to do. And we also probably need to productivity module them at some point, because that is the way of getting more seed outputs probably. So if we just do that, then that is hang on, is that correct? So if we do that, productivity is plus 6%. So that is, it feels like the amount of seeds have gone down a lot more than they should. Is that just because of the rounding? It's probably just because of rounding. Because that is 40% slower, but the numbers are showing it's like half as much seeds, which would be very bad if that were actually the case, because the amount of seeds that it produces is like pretty precise. And how much extra power is this? It's like way more extra power. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be an issue. Alright, so we have the jelly nut processing with the 50% productivity from biochambers help. Oh, I forgot that we have those and they can do that. Probably yes. Although that would need nutrients to work, right? And we haven't quite gotten that stuff figured out yet. Alright, so now we just have to sort of do the same thing on the other side. So if we just, like, actually no, we should just copy paste like a little chunk of these. So if we just copy paste you and then flip you vertically and paste you in there, then you get set to Yumiko processing, and your outputs are going to have to get set accordingly to Yumiko mash and to Yumiko seeds. Then that power line is in the way, so we're going to have to move it. And then we need 2 output belts. And the Yumiko seed output belt needs to go up this way. and just go all the way over here until we figure out... I think this is where it is. So this then goes down like that. And if we were to then set up that all the rest of the way, then we would be good to go. So now we can paste that across, and we copy this and just place this along a whole bunch of times. And yikes, these are all going to be productivity moduled, which might be a problem for power demand. Although we did get the steam turbines running recently, so that's nice. Now, do I have any of those that I can do? No, but I have the seeds, which... Let's just put those seeds on that belt and see if that gets anything done. And we're gonna also... We're just gonna hope that the power works itself out somehow and we get the seed production. Alright, so that is the jelly nuts going, and then we need to get this also going out. And now the problem we need to solve is we need to get a way of turning this into a loop. So, did this ever get loaded up? Transport platform. It's got a whole bunch of express splitters on it. Yes, so let's bring this over because we need those express splitters here. So what we need to do is basically we have the splitters go and split off from here and then go in like a big loop up over this way and then return back in. And that way we will be able to... Okay, this doesn't work apparently. The loop... I could have sworn this worked when I built it. But there we go. Alright, so now that loop is going. And if anything gets spoiled on here, on this loop, then we just need a splitter to send it off into one of these garbage belts. And I think this is also not really a perfect solution for various reasons. Now, did that Yumiko stuff ever happen? I sent some seeds over there. It doesn't look... Did they make it and they're just growing? Yes, they made it and they're just still growing. Okay, that's fine. Steel plate productivity. More of that unlocked. And let's just get, I don't know, worker robot speed. Wait, can we productivity module these? No, these don't take any modules. Okay. Worth checking at least. Would have been pretty handy if we could do that. Alright, so now we're back. And this is going, actually. So we have some power from the steam turbines, which is somewhat intermittent. It's intermittent because we still don't have like a steady supply of the nuts here. And stuff is still happening on Novice, that's fine. Alright, so what we need to do is we need this transport platform to show up so that we can have splitters. Because currently the entire design sort of relies on splitters existing, and they don't currently. Okay. What can we do in the meantime? I guess we can start building the things that are going to be relying on the splitters. So, this belt of jelly is going to split off here, go up, just get rid of that thing. It's going to go up this way, and then across this way, along a bit, and then I don't know why it always insists on doing that wrong when I try to build corners with it. And then it loops around. And actually, do we even need splitters for this? Just making it a giant loop like that should just be fine. So you can just do that. So what we do need a splitter for is the jelly nut loop. Okay, wait, what if actually I just had another even better idea? If we just have all of these be loops like the jelly nut one, and just have splitters to get rid of spoiled stuff at each step, then surely that would work. So, if we have this loop down and into there. Okay, we need to actually finish that. So now the jelly will just loop around, and okay, it gets jammed there. The jelly is getting jammed, guys. Things you never think you'd say. Alright, so let's send down some splitters and belts, and may as well bring some power lines while we're at it. Alright, and the Yumiko berries are showing up. And we need these guys to do their own loop. So what if we have you loop back around like that? And that is something. And hopefully it'll produce enough seeds to function. Now we can hop over here, grab a couple stacks of splitters, and we're also starting to run badly low on belts, so I'm not going to complain about that. Alright, so now we need a splitter there to be output priority left filter jelly, and okay, wait, that's not gonna work because I need it to also output the jelly to the other side. Okay, what if we just clear the filter? How do we just clear the filter? Right click, clear. So we clear the filter so excess jelly goes over that way. And then we need another one. So we also need to make sure we always sort the spoilage out, even when it's not excess. So if we put another one like that and go output priority, right, filter, spoilage. So then Any excess stuff goes over that way, it gets burned. Any spoilage goes over that way, it gets burned. This is not how we want that to be connected in then. We need this to get split in like that with input priority right. Or maybe just no input priority. Maybe just, yeah, just have it 50-50. That... it at least keeps everything moving. So that's good. So yeah, now everything is always moving and spoilage is getting filtered out. Okay, but really we need to work out a more compact way of doing this, because this is very convoluted, and if we have to do this for every single step, it's like this much space is just too much. So how do we manage that? If we have... Let's see. There's got to be a good, convenient way of managing it, and I'm just not thinking of it at the moment. Now, you sure do have a lot of jelly now. So that's definitely a plus. And seems to be a pretty constant supply of jelly. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to try to build compact just like for the aesthetic of it being compact, but when something blows up to a certain scope, making it more compact is actually incredibly useful. So how do I want to manage this to make it compact? We need to... So we need to get a loop in. We need the loop to have enough space, like up here, where we can branch other loops off of it and then send them back. But we still need this system here to output into some heating towers. So, okay, this system over here actually could be a decent example of what we need to do. So let's get the slower versions on my hotbar so I don't have to constantly go into that menu to grab them. So this would theoretically have the same problem the other ones had, where we need that to go like that. Then we need to output right spoilage, and then we need to output priority left that. So then these two come over here and they merge up, and that should do the trick, right? So we get the spoilage out, we get everything else out. Does this work the same way as what we did up here? It should, right? So first we filter out the spoilage, then we filter out any spare. Yeah, so that should work the same way. So let's try to get like as compact a version of that as possible. So I think it's something like this, and you go in like that. Yeah, okay. So then we have to set the output priorities for this. So you get the spoilage, you just make sure we cycle things through if we can. And then let's blueprint this out as just loop clearer. And we can put that into there. And then if we just have this like in this spot for all of our loops, then that would work. Okay, and then I mean all of this is just ultimately going to go up to there and get burned. Alright, so we have our blueprint, we can dismantle that. Then, as far as the proper outputs go, this is still going, right? It seems like this isn't... Yeah, so this is only like burning like half a belt at a time, which is actually affecting the ability of these machines to output anything. So actually, that's weird. These ones here at the end are the only ones that are running, so they need to be the ones that are productivity moduled. This one at the end isn't connected up to anything. Alright, so let's watch this, because now we have a fair chunk of spoilage actually on the loop. And we finished worker robot speed, so the spoilage should all get sorted out over this way. Yes, it does. And down here, where things are getting looped back in, there is no spoilage. Alright, so that does work. We have our worker robot speed unlocked. And let's just queue up another one, because having faster worker robots never hurt anyone. And we might need more of the bulk inserters on these just to deal with all of this. And we also might need this to be a turbo belt, just because that seems like it might be part of the problem now that things are running properly on both sides. We're probably going to need even more heating towers. Alright, so let's go to our blueprint, pop a loop clearer in here, and yeah, I know the express transport belts are in the way, I'm trying to overwrite them. So that goes in, and then this loops up to there, so if we ever have too much of that, it's not an issue. And then we need to turn the Yumiko mash into a loop as well, which, yeah, so that's going to be an issue. Alright, so let's dismantle this giant, ugly version that we have up here. And just replace that with this blueprint, which we need to flip like this. And we actually do not have all that much space in here. Okay, is there a more convenient... Yeah, there's a more convenient place to put that. Let's dismantle that. So this loop clearer can just be here. Gotta rotate it correctly and then flip it correctly. And that is fine, because that's just outputting to that anyways. So then we just need the other end of this loop to connect in down to here, actually, I think. Just run past the machine. Yeah, so that's what we need you to do. So you go out like this, go down and into there. And then this whole belt we just need to output into that. Just so we get rid of all of that stuff and it isn't sitting there forever. Alright, so now let's dismantle that for clarity. So that all goes away. And now our jelly loop is going around like this. And it's actually using both sides of the belt. Oh wait, I see some stuff that's stationary. Why are you guys stationary? You should be... Oh, I see. Because it's another one of those instances where it goes in like that. It has to go in like that. Alright, that's that problem solved. And this actually, I think, maybe coincidentally... No, it doesn't wind up using both sides of the belt, I think. I think that's just a consequence of that mistake that we made earlier, that we just fixed. Alright. So the jelly is looping properly. And if we want to use the jelly, we can grab it off of here, and that will be fine. And we do have some spoilage on that belt, which will get cleared out by the system. And let's just watch that happen, because I need to make sure... Yep, there it goes. And onto that. Alright, so that seems to be reasonably effective. Now, it does run into the problem that a whole lot of this stuff is going to be like 90% spoiled, which, you know, maybe isn't ideal in terms of like getting the most efficiency out of your belt space. But I don't know how to fix that. Like, I don't think... Maybe with inserters we could do spoiled priority or something to, like... I don't know, make it so that as much fresh stuff... Yeah, what we might want is some way of filtering out stuff that's been on the belt for longer than usual, but I don't know how to do that. It doesn't seem obvious, at first glance at least. So I think... But we should probably fix that. It seems like it is going to be an issue. So, let's think. We have a belt incoming. How do we... We want to, like, get rid of stuff that is more spoiled than otherwise. So, if we, like, have a chest... If we have, like, a bulk inserter into a chest... And we tell that bulk inserter to just take... So the bulk inserter only does things when taking items from an inventory. So that's just going to take whatever it is out, and then we're going to move it through the chest, and then out to another belt on the other side. Which... This one we can do... spoiled first or fresh first. I guess what we can do is we can sort out, like, the most spoiled and the most fresh. So if we do something like this, then the oldest stuff is removed and the cleanest stuff is kept. And that might be like a reasonably decent way of doing things, but then we run into limitations based on bulk inserters. And I don't know. I think we'll try to work with this system for now. Because currently we have a whole lot of stuff running around. And once we actually have machines using the jelly and the Yumiko mash, then it'll go a lot quicker. So speaking of that, how's power going? We actually have steam turbines running now. So that's pretty neat, providing a solid, constant bit of power. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is we need to make a similar loop for the Yumiko mash. So you need to go out there, and instead of just going directly in to that, you need to do something other than just output directly into that. So what you need to do is you need... Let's see, how about... What if we make this whole thing an underground belt as far back as possible? So that we have more space, and we get a loop clearer in here. So that goes in. So now the excess junk goes around that way and is cleared. And then the Yumiko mash that we actually want is going to go around this way. And then I think it just... Let's get some underground belts going along here. Just so that this can go through that and down to there. Alright, so now we have the Yumiko mash doing a little loop as well. And now that we have both of those, I really feel like we need to find some way of filtering out the oldest stuff, because it's just wasteful to do it like this. I mean, we're going to wind up with a ton of belt space just taken up by spoilage. A lot of these guys aren't even producing. It does look, though, like... It looks like the productivity modules might be working, in the sense that we are definitely getting a more solid supply of Yumiko fruit now than we were a moment ago. So that is good. Okay. I think I know what I want to do, maybe. So, I need you to produce exactly just what you need. The problem with that is that that requires a whole lot of planning and possibly some circuit stuff, and I don't want to have to do all that extra work every time we do anything, basically. So what I think we need to do is... Okay, I have an idea, actually. So what we need is... Let's take the loop clearer. So this is our blueprint that we have. Now, if we have another guy in here, just like that, which is input priority left and output priority left. Okay. Actually, is there a way of doing this with just the two? So, if you are... if you're just output priority left with nothing, and you are output priority right with spoilage filter, does this still work? So any extra stuff goes in there, and then any spoilage goes in there, yes. And then, if we set you to also be input priority left, then we could have this be just... So this can go in, and fresh stuff will be prioritized over unfresh stuff. So let's copy that and paste you in there, and obviously nothing has to actually get done. Alright, so then all we need to do is we need this belt to come down here and go across all that and into there. So now this belt here should be just pure fresh production, and it should be prioritized over the excess stuff. So all the stuff which makes it in an entire loop around is here, and all the stuff which is coming in fresh is here. So that should keep the fresh production going. And now, can we get the same thing working for all of these? So we need you to go in like that, and then, okay, actually this needs to be... Does this even need to happen for the fruit themselves? I don't know if it does, actually. Although we might need a bit more space for it, which is the big downside here. But at least visually it looks like we have a lot more fresh jelly on the belt. So that's good. Certainly more fresh jelly on the belt than fresh Yumiko mash on the belt. Alright, so if we then... Is there enough space for this? We would need the output belt to come along this line, which seems impossible. Yeah, okay, so that's not going to work, unfortunately. Which means we probably just need to deconstruct most of this and rework it. So, I think ideally we want the Yumiko fruit itself to loop around up further than this. So instead of doing that, you go up here and you loop back in this spot. Like that. And maybe that will clear out the space that we need. So, if that is looping there, then that's just going to go around in a circle the whole time until it outputs to that, which is something. Then, this belt's output needs to be somewhere where it can access... Alright, so if that's the case, then this belt isn't needed, and that frees up a little bit of space. So we can take that belt out, And the loop around, if you go in and actually don't loop around, you get cut off and you come in here. So then we just need to dismantle some of this stuff to get space. And let's see, so now we have that. This jelly belt being right there is a bit of a problem. But I guess we can maybe just sneak that out past the jelly belt, so then we don't have to deal with that. And then we can move you further in that way, and I don't know, you all merge up somehow. Okay, then we paste this new version of the loop clearer in there. We set the input priority to the other side. Drag you in, and then the output goes into that, and then the input goes... Where's the other side of the loop again? Oh, it's here. Yeah, okay. So then that goes into there. Alright, so now we are once again looping the Yumiko mash around, but prioritizing the new input. And apparently we are using too much of this belt. So let's start by just making you a faster belt. And then I think what we need to do is we need to just have you go up and input onto the other side of it. And we're probably going to need multiple output belts rather than just feeding everything into this one. But that can be something we worry about later. In the short term, things do appear to be running out of jelly nuts. We've got more of them coming, I guess. So hopefully that's fine. And the Yumiko berries are going around and around. And we are producing plenty of those for now. We can expand this quite easily. And we have that, we have that. So yeah, if we just copy you and just bring you like out to there, that won't break anything. That little extra tail there can be removed. Oh, and I didn't get the input belts fit in. So let's get those. So that should be more than enough production for the Yumiko fruits. And okay, somehow satisfaction has collapsed. Oh, so the solar panels are dead, and the steam turbines are somehow also dead. Oh, right, the steam turbines are going to be dead because we don't have enough power for that. Right, I forgot that that was a thing which can happen. Okay, in order to fix that, how do we fix that? We need more solar panels, I guess. And theoretically we need more steam turbines, probably. Alright, so the power has failed, which is quite an issue. Will it come back during the day? Solar panel production isn't even all that great. So yeah, we don't have solar panels for most of this stuff. Does the transport platform have any solar panels? No, it does not. Let's get it to give us another couple hundred of each. And then you can head out. And what else might we want? There was something else that I wanted this to grab, but I didn't think of it at the time. I can't think of it now. Alright, it is seemingly daytime again, and solar panel power is picking back up. Oh, I know the problem. We dismantled this guy's connection to fluid. That's what actually happened. Yikes. So that's an easy fix, fortunately. You just have to go in there, and then all the steam turbines start going, and we have a lot of power again, which hopefully will be strong enough to keep us going until this is more stable. So we are definitely outputting a lot of stuff, which is converting to a lot of power. And the outputs are doing their thing as always. The fact that these all output into the same belt, which is not fast enough to handle all of them, is actually kind of an issue. How is that possible? This is belt speed 45. This is 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. So the problem is that we're not using both sides of the belt. I guess that makes sense. Alright, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's pick a random research to do. So yeah, these guys sitting here is causing basically older jelly to wind up on the belt. Now, is this is the seed belt. We can't really get rid of that. So how do we flip these guys around without causing problems? We need to do it like halfway through the row. I guess what we can do is, if we just take you out, just remove one of the machines, and then you just go like, oh no, you have to go one further over. There, so now we have 5 back there, 4 up there. That is using both sides of that. And Yumiko Mash is half as fast for no apparent reason, so that might just be fine as is. Alright. So that's going along. And I guess we might like put, if we had more consistent power, we might like put a beacon there or something. Speaking of consistent power, it's just, yeah, so basically it's just somewhat wildly inconsistent depending on like whether we're charging capacitors or whatever. Alright. We need, yeah, we almost definitely need, okay, so here's another thing which has happened now, which is that this is outputting on like that for some reason. So we need to stop that. You can go up there and then merge it like that. So now if we need to use both sides of the output belt, we can, and then we have to do the same thing here, which... yeah, all this output belt shenanigans is a bit complicated. But it looks like it's working now. It's hard to tell on the Yumiko side because we have, like, absolutely zero berries, which is concerning. If the productivity modules are working as advertised to increase the yields of both things, then that shouldn't be happening. Do we have any fruit at all over here? Yes, we actually have a fair amount. It's just all growing. That makes sense. Alright. I think we might want that to be a bulk inserter because it has a lot of stuff to do. So ideally, is this entirely... there's a lot of just like random electrical poles and stuff on this that we don't need and might be conceivably causing problems for the farming. I don't know if that's even how that works, but let's just take some of those guys out. Take some of these guys out. Alright, hopefully my assumption on the productivity module is correct, and we are doing well on getting more Yumiko seeds, and more jelly nut seeds as well. Be nice to have a significant quantity of both of those. I guess let's run down and replace the jelly nut thing with a bulk inserter as well. Just mostly so that we can get down there and see what's going on. So if we just run down this way, all the way over to here, you see that this guy is occasionally... I mean, this guy's got plenty. Yeah, you've got more seeds than you know what to do with, so we definitely want you to be a bulk inserter. I actually have a couple more that I might as well just throw in there. Alright, so now with the bulk inserter, that is going even faster. And at some point we're going to need to figure out the whole landfill thing to expand the farming of these. For now, I'm basically just happy to be getting anything at all. Alright, so we can run back up here, and I would say at this point we have stable belts full of Yumiko mash and jelly. So the next thing that we need to do with the Yumiko mash and the jelly is we need to make bioflux and we need to make nutrients. So how do we do that? Bioflux is just some of each in a biochamber with nutrients. And nutrients are Yumiko mash, bioflux. Actually, is bioflux more efficient at making nutrients than Yumiko mash is? So this is 4 Yumiko mash to 6 nutrients. This is 5 to 40. So 1 bioflux gives you 5... Wait, no. One bioflux gives you 8 nutrients. And the Yumiko mash is a lot closer to 1 to 1. Okay, but you have to put in a lot of Yumiko Mash and Jelly to get 4 Bioflux, so it's probably pretty comparable, actually. I don't know, I'm not going to do the math. Let's just take the Yumiko Mash and do something with it. So this is going to be the test of just how expandable this system is. So we take a splitter off anywhere on this. We loop it out to up here and run it along. Actually, we don't want to do it quite like that. We need you to go in like that. Panda, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. So this is going to go up here, run up, and alright, let me guess, we've broken all the power by doing that, probably. Alright, so we just have to rearrange that, and if we then get a biochamber in, because we might as well get more efficient here. Nutrients from Yumiko Mash. That goes in there. And, oh right, we need actual nutrients to start. Okay, but anyways, the point is that the Yumiko Mash is going to go up. It's going to go a bit over here. Far enough to get a good solid row, however long we need. And then it is going to loop back down into here, where it will rejoin. And then that will be that. So, theoretically, this would work if we had nutrients to start with. And we're going to need a big old belt of nutrients. So let's actually start with making some nutrients from spoilage over here. So you go in here and you get nutrients from spoilage. Paste that across, power it all up. So, whenever any spoilage gets through here, which shouldn't be too frequently, but should happen occasionally, then we will get some nutrients. And yeah, so we're grabbing some of that stuff here. And now we need to get these nutrients doing a giant loop, which is gonna have to start from multiple different places. We're gonna have to... So this is gonna be complicated, because the nutrient loop has to start from here, and we also want to do some nutrients from Yumiko Mash as well, where we also get some. So if we have our biochambers up here, and we just have a couple of them in, and obviously they are going to get their settings. So this is doing that. Then they need to output nutrients and spoilage, which they can just do to a single belt. And we need those nutrients and these nutrients to meet up as part of the fresh nutrients group, which we need this loop to just go around like this, because we do actually need it to be accessible from itself. So if we do that, and then we send that down, then this can come back around. And what is this loop? Oh, that's the Yumiko fruit. Yeah, so that can go underground to save some space. So we need a loop clearer on this, which, where can we even fit this? I guess we can put it here, send both of these belts underground, and then work with that. So if you are there, then you need to be an underground belt. You need to be an underground belt. So then this is just going to go off, and then we send it in to the trash system as usual. Alright, so we have that. And then the loop needs to get fresh stuff from over here, which goes up like that and around there to fit into that. And we need to change these settings, right? So we need to get the back one to not be that. Instead, you are output priority left, input priority also left. Yeah, because that's where the fresh stuff comes from. And then you are output priority right for spoilage. So then that will have the nutrients looping properly once this is all started up. And what we need to do then is we just need to possibly just manually grab some nutrients from here, throw them in there, and then feed you. Alright, so now you're making nutrients. You need long-handled inserters there to grab more. Ooh, laser weapons damage has finished. Let's get personal battery upgrade, because we might as well. Alright, so that does seem to have worked. And now we have a whole lot of nutrients showing up. And we've got 2 of these. How much nutrients do they make? They make like 9 total. And they use like, it's hard to say how much. It's not immediately obvious. But we have plenty of nutrients now, and oh, I just remembered an annoying thing about nutrients actually. So nutrients don't burn. So after that, we need the nutrients to go into a box, and this all needs to be powered, and then the output needs to be filtered to output spoilage. And we're gonna need a lot more than what we currently have set up in order to get that going. Maybe it might be fine actually. Alright, so we need to grab the nutrients off of this. So yeah, nutrients can't burn, but they do spoil pretty fast, so we can just put them in a box and wait for them to spoil. And that is fine. Speaking of waiting for stuff to spoil, can I just actually... You're a box that leads directly into the spoilage system, so we might as well send you like that. Okay, now these guys don't need to exist anymore. because they were just needed for jump-starting the whole thing. So yeah, I mean, nutrients spoil real quick. So this should be plenty, and if it isn't, then we can just like... if we just do another one of these guys. So now we have 2 boxes full of storage, and that should be plenty to get rid of all that. And then this will just eventually run out of nutrients to output. And now we have a belt of nutrients, which means we can do all sorts of stuff pretty easily. And the only cost is that that's going to use up a whole lot of our Yumiko mash. And if the Yumiko supply ever stops for too long, then that's going to be a problem. Because that'll also cause the nutrient supply to stop. Like right now, we don't have any. But okay, we've just got some. That's good. Okay, this splitter technically wastes like 2 Yumiko, but that's fine. We can just ignore that, I think. So they are looping around, doing their thing. It is somewhat alarming how few we're getting. It's like we would hope to have a lot more than this by this point. So let's head back over and see if there is any actual problem. Okay, it looks like we're getting a big burst of Yumiko now, so that's good. And you have a whole bunch of them in various states of growth, but mostly pretty young. And you don't have any seeds right now to spare. Which might be fine if we're going to be producing the seeds successfully and sending them over. Alright, so yeah, the Yumiko are doing fine. They're looping around. We're producing a whole bunch of mash, which means we're producing a whole bunch of nutrients. And these guys are really not getting anywhere near full before they spoil. Now, does this stack spoil all at once? It seems like it does. Alright, that's fine. It can feel free to spoil all at once if it wants to. Alright, so now we have nutrients. We can move on to the next stage, which is the bioflux. So we need to get Yumiko mash, nutrients, and jelly. And get some biochambers running to make that. By the way, how's power? Power is fine with the steam turbines. That's apparently just not an issue right now. So, let's see here. The Yumiko mash is going to get split off again. And now this is sort of going to be the issue, right? Is this production is it's just going to keep getting split in half and split in half and split in half. And then eventually we're going to be dealing with like a tiny percentage of our production. Alright, but that seems like a problem for later. For now, we get a splitter on you. You go over this way. And then you eventually loop back into there. You get a splitter there. You output this way. And don't go backwards. And then you go along there before eventually inputting back down there. And then we have our biochambers, which go in like there, and we can get one more in there. And then they just need to get set up from all of those. And why can I... Oh, because there was already a belt there. It was just invisible. Finished another research. Start another research. Okay, let's not start that one. Let's start something easier that's not like an infinite research, like braking speed. Sure, we can do that. Okay, did we... Alright, so we need to get these guys powered. So we go like that. Then we get our nutrient input here, which comes in like so. And then we get our bioflux output here. Actually, how fast is this? Pretty quick. Pretty quick indeed. So we get that, and we might want to have the bioflux output be that side, just for output speed reasons. Okay, now, how do we get the sugar in here? Or nutrients. It's technically not sugar. So, we start like this. So I guess one of the upsides of doing it this way is that... Actually, you need to loop down there. You need to go underground a little bit. One of the upsides of doing it this way is that, like, if any random junk gets on a belt, it'll eventually get filtered off the belt, and we don't have to worry about it. Alright, so then you go across here, and up there, and so you are looped back in. So now we just need you to loop out successfully, which we're going to have you go along this way and down there. Alright, so we have all that. Now we just need all these guys to go back to their original belts. So you go back to there. The Yumiko mash needs to tip spoilables and research. What is that tip? Agricultural science pack gives less value the more it is spoiled. Well, that's good to know and also incredibly irritating. So this belt needs to get out somewhere. And actually, I think it'd be easier to send this up. So you go underground a bit there. You come up this way. Loop around here. And where was this supposed to go? Yeah, it's... At least they're not trying to trick me with it, but I would really rather that not be how that worked. Alright, so you have to go in like that to keep that loop going. And then this needs to get around that way and then down to there to get the loop completed. Alright. So that seems to be working except for the bioflux, which we're now going to need to get a proper loop going for, because this stuff also spoils. because of course it does. So you need to get all the way over to the right, and then all the way back into here. So I think the easiest way of doing that would be if we just have the loop clearer out here, and I don't know, have it face that way maybe. Then the bioflux loop can go around this way, and I don't know, that's ridiculously small, but it'll be a start of something. And why are you not going through? What is your problem? Surely you can just go... Okay, there's something stuck weirdly. Don't know what that was about. So that is looping around. Now we need to take this one, I think. Wait, no, not... Right, so I remember now. The way we did this is you are that one, which is output priority to there. Extra stuff goes out there. Then you are output priority right, spoilage, and then our fresh production goes in one side. Our loop return comes in the other side, and you are input priority left. And this has done something weird again. Alright, I don't know why that was stopping, but I think it's probably just because of some weird way the belts got lined up. Okay, now we need to stop that. And we need to grab more belts because we are out. Because all these giant loops take an insane amount of belts. Alright, so we go back here. Do you have any belts? No. Do you have any belts? Yes, you have plenty. And probably send down some underground belts as well. No, actually we have plenty of underground belts. Okay. So, when are belts showing up? Oh, wait. You're over the wrong planet. So, what I actually just did is I actually just got rid of all the things which I need to be transporting over here. Fantastic. Just what I wanted to not do. Okay. In the meantime, these guys are they just not keeping up? Can I produce an extra couple of them? It looks like the belt speed might be fast enough, but the heat towers might not be. So let's get another one of you in. And that should help keep that problem from becoming a major issue. And at some point soon, we're going to have to just add a second belt of output to this. Alright. Transport platform has gotten most of the transport belts back up. There we are. So all that stuff lands. And now you can just go to Gleba. And that'll give us some more belts. And that'll be very cool. So this is currently not functioning because we don't have the belts to bring this back over to there. But once it starts working, we will have a solid amount of bioflux production. Although the way the whole splitting it in half and splitting it in half again works, actually, we don't need to do that. You can be output priority up there. Yeah, this doesn't even technically need to be a split, I think. I think technically the splitters are just, like, convenient, and we could get rid of them if we needed to. So we have that, and then I think we want to do the same thing here, but that way. So now, as much of it is just going through the loop as possible. And do we do the same thing with this? Output, which one is it? Output priority right, to get all of that stuff going. And this stuff gets output priority right. I really wish the priorities weren't based on the orientation of the splitter, and were just based on like the global orientation. That would be a lot easier to deal with. But it's not that big of a deal. Alright, so that is going. And all of our bioflux that we have here is going to be eventually spoiling. It's already started up here near the front. But this is working. I mean, it's not easy to expand, but it's also not, like, terribly difficult. And it is providing a good combination of, like, keeping supplies present and available and using them. Now, the Yumiko input continues to be a problem. I am not thrilled about how slow that is and how infrequently it comes around. Okay, how's power? Power production is more than fine. I think if we just productivity module everything, I think that will help out a little bit in just spreading out, like making sure we get maximum value out of the fruits. And then at some point there's this stuff to deal with, which we need a lot of Yumiko seeds for that, which I don't know how we're ever going to get that many. If there's some trick to it. There's got to be some trick to getting more Yumiko seeds out than you put in. Because right now we're like barely breaking even. Which is a problem. Alright, let's see, what is there to do? The transport platform is only 2/3 of the way here, so we can't do anything about that. The supply of nutrients is a little bit precarious, because if we ever run out of, I guess if we don't have Yumiko mash for long enough, all the nutrients we have will either spoil or be used, and then we won't be able to produce new nutrients from the biochambers. Now, they do get first dibs on their own production, and they also get, I think, first dibs on the Yumiko mash, so it's probably fine. It's probably fine, but it could conceivably become a problem. Alright, so that goes, and we did get a seed out of it that time. That was lucky that I happened to see that. So hopefully that's okay. So this is bioflux and pentapod eggs. So pentapod eggs are the next thing I need to worry about, which is going to be annoying because I'm going to have to go out and find some more, because my last batch all got they all hatched. Alright, the transport platform is here, so we can finish off this bioflux loop. So now you're here. Send down some of those. And probably use them all, like, instantly. Because 400 belts is not a huge amount. It's not a small amount, not a huge amount. Alright, we have those now. So we can bring our bioflux over. So this goes down here and down past that. And then we just have to bring this belt up into here somehow. Like so. And okay, bioflux is another one of those things which doesn't decay. So we're going to need to set up boxes that wait for it to spoil. So we have that in, and then that gets powered up. Now we need to get all this stuff off of the belts before the power grid does something stupid. Okay. So we've done that. So now this box is going to fill up with bioflux. But bioflux lasts for literal hours. So I think we might need a couple boxes just to be sure that nothing weird happens. Alright, so we do that. And now these boxes will store all the excess bioflux we produce, which theoretically should have a plenty good supply of bioflux. Alright, so that braking force has been researched, and now all of the agricultural science stuff has showed up, despite the fact that we don't really have the capacity to do that right now. So what do we have the capacity to do? It's basically all agricultural science stuff. Lab research speed, I guess. Alright, so this is going, and we're filling boxes up with bioflux that we're just waiting for it to eventually break. That's going to take forever, apparently. I wonder if we need even more boxes of this. It'll probably be fine. Like, each stack can store a bunch. I really wish there was a way of just, like, selectively removing the oldest bioflux from the loop. And maybe there is with, like, circuit stuff. But, I don't know. This system should be fine, probably. If these guys all fill up, then we can just add more and it'll be okay. Because ultimately these are just like a temporary buffer. Because everything that goes in is going to go out eventually. So it's just a question of whether there's enough storage to hold it in the meantime. So, we have bioflux, check. So next up, do we want to start the whole bacteria thing and make iron and copper on site, or do we just want to say forget that and just go straight to agricultural science? I think for now, at least, I think for now we're just going to be fine with getting this, having this be reliant on imports for production. I mean, we have plenty of stuff to import, and the bacteria stuff and all this stuff looks like a massive nuisance I don't really want to do. So, for now at least, let's get science running. And once we have a load of agricultural science, which we're going to have to deal with in its own way, once we have that, we might loop back to figuring out production here on Gleba, because it does seem like an interesting challenge to do more of this sort of stuff. Alright, so, anyways. Agricultural science needs pentapod eggs, which needs nutrients, more pentapod eggs, and water. So, what we need for that is, first and foremost, so obviously we need the nutrients and we need the water, and that's fine. The nutrients shouldn't be that hard to get, although it might use a lot of them and break other production, but if that's the case, we can just expand this out, and that would be fine. But anyways, if the trick is going to be the cycling, so the pentapod eggs, we need to like keep a stable supply of them. Also, did I use all of my biochambers already? I think I did. Yeah, I think I did. So that's annoying, because it's going to mean we're going to need to grab pentapod eggs to do this in the first place. Where is the... We need to search for the little guys that we have to blow up to get the eggs. I have no idea where they are. Alright. Anyways. So, we need to prepare to make biochambers, which we can import everything except the nutrients and the pentapod eggs, and then we can just craft that on site, either in an assembler or whatever. That should be fine. Alright, I did hear a sound, which makes me think there's a pentapod somewhere in this area. Can I craft radars? No, I need stuff for that. Well, fortunately, I have plenty of iron and copper from there, so we can send all that stuff down, and then we can start working with it. Alright, so this stuff is landing. Iron, check. Copper, check. Let's make a couple of radars, just so that we can see what we need to see. And radar number 1. We're just gonna pop you right there. And hopefully that will reveal some stuff. And at the very least, it'll let me scroll over there to check what's going on when I'm not immediately over there. And then we're going to also get a radar just sort of in the base. And then we're going to run all the way down to the jelly fruit source and get a radar down there. And I do see some red specks on the map, which are probably sources of pentapod eggs. But I don't know if I want to... Those decay pretty fast, right? I guess by spoil, I mean hatch. Yeah, so pentapod eggs spoil within 15 minutes, which is pretty quick. Like, I kind of want to have my stuff all set up by the time that happens. Alright, so now we have a radar there. This guy is actually very slowly building up a stockpile of extra seeds. So that's good. That means it's working, and eventually we'll be able to expand it. Is this guy doing the same? Yes, it is. Alright, so that is fantastic news. What is not fantastic news is that the power grid has crashed. How has the power grid crashed? I leave for 30 seconds, and power grid's gone. Is this, like, a separate thing? Yeah, okay, this is a somehow managed to be connected to a different power grid than the main thing, I think. Yeah, so this is connected along to there. And it never goes up to where we actually need it to be. So that was just running purely on solar power. So if we connect that up now, it should be fine. Yeah, so power grid here is still totally reasonable. And, okay, I have broken something. Oh, I see. That's funny. Alright, so you just need to go out like that. And... oh, that will have also broken our... okay, that's unfortunate. Hopefully these guys still have some nutrients. No, they don't. Alright, we're going to need to jumpstart that again. So give me some nutrients down here. And then I run up to you, toss those in, and then you can produce some nutrients, which you can then use to keep yourself fed. Alright, that's annoying. So yeah, I put a splitter in just exactly the wrong spot that cut off the Yumiko mash from outputting properly, which caused that whole thing to stop. We have it fixed now. We have it fixed now, and we can just go back to normal. And I wish there was a way of having nutrients work better. Let's see, that recipe, nutrients from Yumiko mash, is not available in an assembler. But, okay, this is what I can do actually. If we have a nutrients from spoilage belt on there, taking inputs from either the near or the far belt, if either of those breaks and starts being spoiled, then this... actually, we would want this to be on the other side so that it can feed these two machines. Which, I guess we just have to pick you up and move you over. So you are over there now. And that's going to require this whole belt to get moved a little bit. And then this. So you output to there, you input from there, input from there. And you get that, and you get the productivity modules. My inventory is starting to get full again. Let's find a box somewhere up here which we can throw some spoilage into. And that will help a little bit, I guess. Okay, down here we are accumulating quite a lot of bioflux, which isn't ideal. But it's also not terrible. Let's see. Ingredients. What are these called? Nutrients? Nutrient supply is back up to functional levels. So that's pretty cool. And let's see, what were we doing before all of that distracted me? I think I wanted to prepare to make... Yeah, so we have the ability to craft biochambers now if we get pentapod eggs. And we're going to have to pick nutrients up, but that's fine. So this obviously is doing its own thing, and we can just set you up that same way as all the others to just, if you filter spoilage and then you go out to there. So this can just take some spoilage and convert it inefficiently into more spoilage if it wants to. And that should theoretically also mean we just occasionally have some nutrients available in that box, which could be nice to have. Alright. Our steam turbines are not exactly the most reliable source of power in the world. Is that just because... Oh, that's just because the solar panels are frequently handling all of it, so they don't even need to run. Okay, that's good, actually. It's nice to have plenty of spare power, because it means we can do stuff like modules without worrying about it. Alright. So, we need to plan out what we're doing here. So we get pentapod eggs. We get water. Now, I think... let me think. We need to make sure we always get rid of the oldest pentapod eggs and burn them before they cause any problems. And these do work as fuel, right? Yes, pentapod egg, burnable fuel. So we should be able to do similar stuff that we've done with all of these with the pentapod eggs. Except it's just a lot higher priority that none of them ever spoil. So we might just not loop them back. We might just give them one loop to go around and then they're done. So let's chart out what we're doing here. We need pentapod eggs, nutrients, and water. So the nutrients are here. The water can be wherever we need it to be. It's right there. Pipes are very easy and convenient compared to belts full of spoilage stuff. So that comes over here and over this way. Alright, so we want this to grab nutrients after the initial nutrient demand, and then just import them right back in. So if we just do that and up a bit, and we're running into our solar power here, and then back down. So something like that is fine. Why are you... Oh, I set input priority. I meant to set output priority. Duh. Input priority obviously wouldn't do anything. Alright, so now we have this. And can we just get rid of all the random plants in here? Alright, so we're going to just be placing... Obviously these assemblers can't actually do the job, but we're just going to have them in just as a stand-in. So these will output pentapod eggs, which will loop around to be their input. So yeah, let's see. They output onto there. Then they input into there. And then, once we have that done, we then take this belt. Actually, would this be easier to do over here by the bioflux, because that's where the science is going to be? Yeah, that maybe would be easier. Although, I guess we're not planning on looping these back to here because of this spoilage risk causing problems. So this might actually be fine. So we have this, and I guess technically the belts need to be placed differently because we need the fluid input, which would be here. Obviously it's not currently, but we would do something like this. Connect you up to water. Alright, so that would now be connected up to water if these were actually the machines that could do that. And then they would also be connected up to nutrients. And then we need to get all of that powered. Alright, so now all we would need to do is just replace these assemblers for the bioflux, for the biochambers, and then that would be that. And then we need to take this belt all the way over to here. And you just go all the way over. And let's see here. If we go up and over, we can fit that in pretty well. So just over like this. We're going to have to move that power line a little bit. Alright, so then this would be a belt with the eggs on it. And then we bring this down to here. And across there, where we would do, I assume this is in biochambers. Yes, so we would do more biochambers, which will be temporarily represented by some assembly machines, which would take these and these. And then this whole thing would be powered up. And then we connect it across. And then we output our science packs, which we then have to somehow get back to novice very quickly. What's the spoilage timer on these? Does it say an hour? That should be fine. It definitely doesn't take an hour. Although, if these guys are old enough, they might have a lot less than that. Alright, how do we do that? So we want to prioritize the freshest bioflux going over that way. So, how about actually we have a... If we put a box in here, which is going to just output along as usual. Now this is going to dramatically limit the supply of bioflux through the whole loop, which I think is probably fine. So obviously this is going to be limited down to just one box worth. Although, if If I do this, it'll be harder. It'll be slightly less perfect because it won't be coordinated for like the best possible situation. But then we then need to figure out how to. So if you are spoiled priority fresh first, you are spoiled priority fresh first, then we would have that, which would get most of a belt through, but this obviously is just outputting as fast as it inputs, which isn't helpful. Okay. So, here's my idea. If we... Is this second box even going to fit? I think it might not. So, if we can actually fit in a second inserter like that. And then that gets connected up. So now we have you as spoiled priority spoiled first, and you are going to go right into that. Alright, so let's think about how this functions for a second. We have... I think we need to... I don't know if this is working or not. Maybe if we make you a slow inserter, then this box would like gradually fill, allowing it to sort better, maybe? I don't know if this even works the way I think it does. Maybe some logic would help. So, decider combinator, and you are going to be connected up to this guy. So we can't, like, figure out spoilage percentage from the circuit network, right? Right, so I think that's probably hopeless. Yeah, I think this probably isn't going to work, and what we want to do instead is just hope that it just give up on that whole plan and hope that it's okay. Because this whole looping system will still prioritize fresh bioflux over older stuff. Like, as we can see, the bioflux passing through here is almost all like 90% or more. So it might be that we just don't have to worry about it. It might also just be because we haven't had this running for very long. There has to be a way of like comparing two bioflux and doing something with the older and something with the younger of the two. There's got to be some clever way of doing that, which I'm not thinking about. I don't know. I think we just leave it as is. So, anyways, this is our pentapod egg belt, and we can just... Actually, this here... Okay. No, we can't put it on the bioflux belt specifically because the bioflux actually sits and waits in a box for ages. But we can, theoretically, if we could get this onto another output line, we wouldn't have to run this all the way over there. But I don't think that's really an option because this has to go direct as possible. Is that a cliff? That's a cliff. Stupid cliffs, man. They're always in the way. So we just run this along here. And then we run it along this way. Okay, and now back here, this is all spoilage from this point, so we can throw it in there, and it'll get burned. Alright, lab research speed is done, which is actually good, because that might be an issue. Plastic bar productivity is agricultural science. Let's see here. What is there that we can do? More braking force. Sure, why not? Honestly, it's kind of a miracle that, like, this just works. Like, the steam turbines are just enough when combined with our solar panels to just keep this whole thing going as well as it is. Like, more than enough by a lot, too. I was having power problems before, and now that I'm throwing like 90% of what I create down into the trash, it's just not an issue anymore. Alright, so all we need to do is replace these 3 with biochambers and feed them with pentapod eggs. Then replace these 4 with biochambers, feed them with pentapod eggs. Or no, not even, we don't even need to do that, they'll just do that automatically. And then we should have science production. But then, once we have science production, then the trick becomes bringing it back. So I guess we'll, theoretically, this should never have any problems. Like, the science just spoils into spoilage, and that's fine. Don't care about that. And actually, what I will do is, if we have the science output belt go down this way, then it can just come over here and merge up with the pentapod egg output belt and then get destroyed. Right? Renegade, hello! Alright, so then we're going to need an intermediary box for that. So you only output spoilage, and then that should be fine. And then we can actually just use that intermediary box as sort of a splitter to grab the rest of the science. And actually this can be fresh first, I guess, just to grab, just in case we have throughput problems, we're grabbing the best science that there is. Alright, so then that is going to output to eventually a rocket silo, which we need to do this. If all goes well, it should serve as an infinite loop. Yeah, theoretically, once we put some pentapod eggs in, it should be fine. And then the science goes there, and we need to craft up a rocket silo and then power up the launches, which is going to be a bit of a problem because we haven't really done anything. So we can get sulfur from there for the sulfuric acid, for the processing units. The low density, yeah, this is going to be terrible. Getting the rocket launch set up is gonna be a massive nuisance. Alright, let's see here. Going off to fight some pentapods. So we have a tank, we've got fuel for the tank, we've got cannon shells. Do we have ammo? I don't see ammo. Did I get rid of all of that? It's probably just lying in a box somewhere. Alright, is there ammo there? No, there is not. Does the transport platform have the ammunition? Yes, it does. Alright, so I don't know where the ammo is supposed to be, but we can just send some down. Oh, it wound up in my in my personal guns. That makes sense. Alright, so we can send more ammo down. Hopefully this pentapod nest will be less awful than the previous one to deal with. Alright, so we have our plenty of ammo, and okay, there's a couple of them down there and like one isolated one up there. Let's see if we can deal with the isolated one up here rather than tackling some scarier enemies. We theoretically need how many of these? We need one pentapod egg for that, and we need one pentapod egg for that. So we need 2 of them. If we can get 2 eggs, then we will be good to go. Alright. Let's get the tank fueled and armed. And off we go. Hopefully we can just drive through this swamp without much trouble. And okay, apparently it's just like right up here. Yes, there it is. Alright. Did we get 2? Alright, we got exactly 2 pentapod eggs. Let's go. So we start by crafting another biochamber. And now we can just drive back to the base, and I think driving the tank, at least on this marsh, is marginally faster. Once we get to the area with a billion trees, walking will be faster, because... yeah, okay. All the trees and cliffs make driving miserable until we get... I think this is also the planet where you unlock the Spidertrons. So that could be fun. Alright, so the biochamber is almost done crafting. So we run up here, and don't get stuck on a random cliff. Alright, so you get removed. You become a biochamber. We give you the pentapod egg recipe. Okay, the inputs are in a different spot than I thought they were. That's fine. Just have you go along like that. You take your inputs from there. And if I then give you one of those, and then we will see if this works. Alright, so it produced that, and it wrapped around and grabbed them, and now it's going. Alright, and now we've got even more. Alright, it seems to be working. So, some of them got past. Let's grab those and craft some more biochambers with them, so that we can get the rest of these guys running, which is going to require fixing all of those. So you go like that, and you go in like that. Alright, I think, just in case, I'm pretty sure I had a gun turret somewhere in my inventory. Okay, I don't, but I can craft one. So I think just in case something weird happens, you just pop a gun turret in here, just to be sure. Not really going to cost anything, because I expect it will never fire. And I don't know where that gun turret went. I could have sworn I had one that I had dismantled at some point. Alright, so you go in, you get told to make pentapod eggs, and you do the same. And okay, now we are having a bit of a nutrient shortage. So these guys are currently not beaconed, so let's get some beacons in for them. And so now you are producing way more nutrients, to the point where we probably need bulk inserters for that. And it doesn't look like we need bulk inserters for the inputs, so that should be fine. So that one is running. These ones don't have water. Oh, right, they're not rotated. There we go. Let's get them rotated. And that should be that. We have pentapods going around in a loop. Did I wind up with any spares of that in my inventory? I hope I didn't. No, I did not. Alright. So, we just pop a gun turret there. Give it like 50 ammo, so if anything weird happens, that should never fire, but if anything weird happens, we have it covered. Alright, then we need to grab more of those, and we need to grab some nutrients to make the biochambers for the science production. And yeah, this might be a bit ambitious on the egg production. It seems like the nutrient demand might be a bit much, because now these guys are starting to get starved, and these guys are taking up all the Yumiko mash. Alright, so we need to get more Yumiko mash, I think, which means we need more Yumiko, which means we need more of that sort of stuff. But for now, let's just get these biochambers officially in. Just a couple of them for now. Agricultural science, agricultural science. And, oh shoot, I forgot to bring nutrients over here. Whoops. Okay, that's actually a bit of an issue. So we need to... I think this area also might need an emergency security gun turret, because if we have some problem like this where we run out of nutrients or flux, then they could just sit in these machines for a long time. Alright. Security gun turret. Bit of ammo. There we go. That should be fine. Now I have 2 of these in my inventory, which is always a little bit stressful. I can turn one of them into an extra biochamber. And then we need more nutrients for the other one. Alright, so that is the last pentapod egg out of my inventory. And theoretically, if we can get nutrients over here, it should be fine. Let's see, is the Yumiko mash production going fast enough? At least when it's physically here, yes. But there's the gaps where the Yumiko aren't present, which is mainly the source of the problem, I think. So we need to get more Yumiko farming going, and might as well run down to get more jelly nut farming while we're at it. And then we also need to get the nutrients over here, at least in theory, so that we can at least pretend to have it set up properly. which means that the emergency gun turret has to be moved slightly because we need to run a belt there. Emergency gun turret, emergency ammo. Alright, so you get inputs, all of those places. Alright, nutrients. Where is my nearest nutrient belt? And why are there so many trees everywhere? Alright, so this is the nutrient belt. So we have you come out here, go down there, and then you need to get back up into where I took you from. So you then loop back around like that. Your output priority right. Alright, and we have science production of some sort, which means that the pentapod eggs are not going to explode out of everything, probably. So yeah, we have science production in those machines, and theoretically that should deal with all the extra pentapod eggs that go into them. And I also have 2 more biochambers, which I can pop in there and fill up. Alright, so now we have that. And we have a couple of agricultural science packs showing up now in our fun little box, which we need to output over this way somewhere. And we're going to need to deal with spoilage just a little bit of this back on Novice, where it arrives. Okay, what is this? Why? How has that happened? Oh, I see. That's annoying. You need to be output priority right. And hopefully that will solve the problem. And I could go to all the effort of clearing the nutrients out of that, but it's going to take forever and fill my inventory with bioflux, and it's all those nutrients are just going to spoil and get thrown away anyways, so I don't really care. Alright, so yeah, so the next time, I think this is a decent wrapping up point. So I think next time we're here, we are going to upgrade the Yumiko production. So we're going to have to go over there and figure out how to do that, because it's been a while. So we need to get more Yumiko fruits in. And then once we do that, we will be working on getting rocket launches. So we are almost at the point of getting science, agricultural science, back to Novice. So that is pretty exciting, and hopefully these guns never have to fire. Hopefully the pentapod eggs are eternally going to be the primary shortage. And these guys, okay, these guys are short on nutrients, but these all look fine. Alright, it's probably fine. We have our emergency guns. We have the loop going properly. I think we're going to be fine. So we're going to wrap up the stream here for today. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Next time we will hopefully get the agricultural science back to Novice, and then we can start doing a whole lot of stuff. And so thanks everyone for hanging out. I will see you guys next time. Tomorrow we're going to be doing Satisfactory, where we are building our giant nuclear power plant. And then we will be back to this on Friday. So thanks for hanging out. I stream every weekday from 2 to 5 Eastern Time, so if you haven't already, make sure to follow. It'd be pretty cool. And that's